Husker fans, this is the spring game preview for Nebraska. I'm Sam McKewon with the Omaha World-Herald and Husker Extra. Kind of unpacking some of the things to watch during the spring game. Hey, you know, it's one of these deals where there's going to be a lot of guys moving around, guys switching teams, guys in different jerseys, guys in different positions. So don't take too seriously everything that happens on Saturday. A lot can change between then and when Nebraska kicks off in Minneapolis on August 31st. A lot will change, I suspect. I think you're going to see a number of players who are currently in the program, not with the program after the spring game. I think you're going to see a couple players actually join from the transfer portal in a couple of spots. So those will be things to watch after. As for what you might watch in the spring game, well, hey, there's always going to be a superhero in the spring game that ultimately doesn't turn out to be a superhero down the road. We're not trying to knock anybody who's done this stuff in the past, but there's probably going to be somebody who has, 117 yards receiving or 104 yards rushing who doesn't necessarily become a star in the fall. The spring game is their spotlight moment, so keep that in mind. But here's some of the questions that I'll be asking and things that you might be able to answer a little bit when that spring game rolls around. Well, the first one is, does the blue chip talent make blue chip plays in the spring game? Nebraska actually has quite a few top 150, top 200 players on the team at this point. Arik Gilbert is at the highest of the list, right? He's the tight end who went to LSU, then Florida, then Georgia, now Nebraska. He was a number 5 player when he came out. He's a 5-star. MJ Sherman, former 5-star. Thomas Fidone, high 4-star. I don't know if he was a 5-star anywhere, but obviously he's a guy to watch. Chief Borders is a guy to watch. Princewell Uman-Yellen is probably the highest rated recruit who enrolled early since Malachi Coleman's not coming until the summer. So there's a number of players on this team that have sort of blue chip ratings. I mean, they just do. That's what they came out of high school with. And if you want to go back and trace one of the smaller things that Nebraska's really struggled with over the last 15 years, it's getting the players who have these sort of high rankings out of high school and getting them to become the elite players that their ratings say they were in college. Now, there are certain circumstances, like a Wan'Dale Robinson, where Wan'Dale was really good here, and then he left, and then he became an elite player at Kentucky in the 1 year that he was there. That does happen. Same thing happened with Aaron Green back in the day. He was here for a year, and then he left, and became a kind of an all-conference player down at TCU. Nebraska would love for those players to become that here. And so MJ Sherman is one that, man, that guy's got a lot of talent and certainly has the frame to be an elite player. Sat behind NFL guys in Georgia, and so we'll see what he's able to do. Gilbert is certainly an interesting player. I think that's a guy that you have to find a way to get on the field. Tall, big frame, really fast for his size, and then of course Fidone, who is a really interesting player. So you're going to want to watch those blue chip players. How do they do? Oh man, Matt Rule has gotten the most talented players on the team to simultaneously start producing. It's not just about turning the walk-on into a functional player, but taking the guy that you're like, that guy is going to play in the NFL, and making him an NFL player when he's here. I think that'll be something worth watching. Turner Corcoran and Bryce Benhart are also in that category. So watch to see if the blue chip talent makes blue chip plays. Okay, that's one thing. We mentioned in another video the tackling, and I think that's something you do want to watch. How does Nebraska tackle maybe 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage, and behind the line of scrimmage? How do they move? What are their pursuit angles like? Are they aggressive? Are they playing with an edge, as I like to call it, a leading edge? Or is there a tentativeness to their play? Are they knocking guys backwards or sideways? Or are they absorbing a blow and being pushed back 3 to 4 yards? I think there's something about, and I'm not a coach or a player, but there's something about a defense that plays with that kind of attitude and that kind of aggression that just tells you how good they are. It's not, and I don't have a problem with the mousetrap defenses that are really smart schematically and fool you and do some other things and do a really nice job of keeping things penned in, because there is something to be said for the Bob Diaco points prevention scheme. But I think what they want at Nebraska is a leading edge, aggressive defense that takes it to an offense, that forces turnovers. That kind of does what Illinois has been doing the last 4 to 5 years, whether it was Lovey or Troy Walters or whatever. Illinois has kind of pointed that way. So is Michigan. Michigan is certainly got a boom-bust kind of system, but Michigan makes plays. And that's the kind of scheme that I think Nebraska's inching toward. The 3-3-5 isn't exactly what Michigan and Illinois are doing, but they want a defense that creates havoc and might create 25 turnovers. And that was a struggle for Eric Chenander's defenses. They didn't do that a lot. They just didn't do it. And so that'll be something I think you really need to watch, is how aggressive is that defense? Are they kind of flying around? Do they make contact and make plays when they hit ball carriers? Because if in this defense, if you whiff or you're off or your angle is off, man, you can give up some really big plays. And if you do that, then your defense automatically gets safer because your players aren't to be trusted in those sort of aggressive scenarios. So that'll be something definitely to watch. You're going to want to watch the quarterbacks. Of course, there's going to be 5 actually that suit up. But 4 scholarship guys. Watch how they play. Watch who plays when. Right, so Jeff Sims will probably be the starter, but who's number 2? Probably Harburg. What about Chubba? How does he look? And then Richard Torres. You know, this is a guy that can throw the ball. He's got an incredible arm. And how do you? This is a guy that might hurt you in 2 years. Some other school who's like, oh, yeah, they didn't want him. So watch how they handle Torres. I think this is a guy that should get a lot of work in this game. I'd like to see Torres throw the ball 20, 25 times, and let's see what happens in the fourth quarter. Get him some work so they can get him on film and get a sense of what he can do. I think it's been a good camp for Sims and Harburg, and of course, will Casey Thompson play? I don't think so. I don't really think that Casey has anything to prove. It's whether Casey's going to fit the overall vision or scheme of what they want to do. You know what Casey's going to bring to the table. Last question I think that you want to consider answering is, how much special teams do they do and how does it look? If they feel pretty good about their special teams, then they're probably not going to do a ton. They're probably going to just kind of sit pat. But this is a coach who states that he wants to be elite in special teams, and there is a difference between oh my God, this is awful special teams, and that's what Nebraska played in 2020 and 2021, kind of 2019 too, where there was an inattention to detail, let's have this guy over here handle it and violate NCAA rules. Oh, well, let's not have him handle it. Let's bring this other guy in to do it, and let's put a punt returner back there who's never done it before, and let's the ball go over his head, and just sort of a, I don't know, whatever you want to call that, a crap show in 2020 and 2021. It was terrible. There's that, which Nebraska's been through. Then there's, you know what? Bill Bush is going to come in here and kick a little butt and get these guys in gear, and they're going to be serviceable in the special teams. They're not going to be an embarrassment. They might even block a kick and create a touchdown. Malcolm Hartzog did that last year. Not terrible. Maybe not number 1 or number 2 in the country, but you know what? They put in a solid effort. They don't embarrass themselves. Hey, let's just go out and kick the ball 40 yards and call it square. Let's go make a 37-year-old, yard field goal and call it square. That's kind of what they had last year, and you have to give Bush some credit for creating that, right? For creating a culture of competency. What Matt Rule wants is number 1, number 2, number 3 in the country. He wants what Iowa does. And if you're going to get what Iowa does, you really have to coach it, because Iowa really, really coaches it. Iowa has elite punters. Iowa has elite field goal kickers. Like, they're good all the time. Their punters are good all the time. Their returners are good all the time. They block kicks all the time. They do all these things all the time, and they do them in really big games. So if Rule wants that, what will we see in the spring game? Will we see them putting in that kind of work? Will we see them trying to return punt returns live to get those guys used to it? Will we see, field goal kicking? Because I think that's a question right now, especially whether, their field goal kicker can make a kick beyond 40 yards. We'll see. Now, if they don't work on it a lot, doesn't mean they don't really care about it, but it may mean, hey, we feel pretty good about this. We don't want anybody to get hurt. We're just gonna move this to fall camp, and we'll see where we go. But if you see a lot of it, I think you'll see, hey, we have a real commitment to getting good at this. This is no joke, and we want to be one of the 5 best teams in the country. Again, I'm not saying there's just 3 tiers, but there's kind of those 3 categories of like elite every year, competent, we don't lose games because of it, and then like it's an afterthought because I worked for Chip Kelly, and it was an afterthought for him because we won every game by 30. Frame. That's what Nebraska was doing, and then they went to the second group, and now they want to go to the first group, and we'll see how the Huskers do with that. Okay, those are the questions for the spring game. For the Omaha World-Herald and Husker Extra, I'm Sam McKewon. Thanks, Husker fans.